Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learned about ancient truths in the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources that we're using for our conversation. Thanks for joining us today for the start of season 2. So for those of you who haven't been around, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Danielle Hartland. I work at Grace, and that's all I want to say right now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. My name is Sarah McCosco. I also work at Grace.
Oh, nice. Good job.
So my name is Mike. I also work at Grace.
Yes.
So thorough.
You guys
wow. Just learning so much about us. My name's Steven. I also work at Grace, but hey, I have a wife and I have 3 kids too.
Way to shame us.
Yeah, way to
Me too.
show us up.
We all are
Steven.
married as well. Wow, we need to get like a single person up here.
We are all married.
Well,
yeah.
we're waiting for your lead-in question, Danielle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
saving
for
everything.
those of you who know, you know that Steven is kind of our resident, what do you normally say? I mean, you're
Scotsman?
Scotsman.
Scotsman.
He's our resident
Scottish man.
Scotsman. So don't ruin it for Steven. If you know, you might know, Sarah. There is a little bit of a viral thing going on right now, especially on TikTok, about a certain Scottish word.
Oh gosh, I can't
So,
stand this. I know
I'm
it's
gonna
coming.
I'm gonna give you
Please don't make me say it.
No, do you know what it is?
No, but I've seen this guy.
Oh, no, I don't know if it's
And
a
I-
guy.
Oh, okay.
So
all right, keep going.
I'll tell you the definition. You go first. Tell us if you know what the word is, and if not, we'll discuss it.
I don't have TikTok.
Right, I know.
Well,
That's
but
why
you know-
might. So the definition is to lie in bed or lounge about when you should be up and around.
Yes.
So like you woke up in the morning, you're like, I'm just gonna read a book in bed and stay in bed all day, kind of a thing.
There's a saying or like
It's
a
a word.
phrase
It's
for
a
it. It's a
word.
yeah.
Well, I
You know
don't
what this
Two
is,
words,
Sarah?
I think it's
but yes.
hyphenated.
Okay.
Yeah. And it
And
rhymes.
it rhymes.
Oh, we're gonna take
Four syllables.
We're gonna take your Scottish card if you don't know.
Well, and he
I think
might
I gave that away a long time when I lost my
Yeah, he
accent.
might be able to be like, that's not a Scottish word. And then we can make our
Well,
own little
if it's
TikTok.
new slang that they came up with and you're not.
But there's so many places in Scotland that it could actually.
It starts
like,
with an H.
Do you have a word that you know of?
No.
Oh. It's called
Do you guys know what it is?
Yes, I
No
do.
idea.
Okay, what is it?
It's the Herkle Durkle.
Yeah. Have you ever?
I mean, that's
That's-
definitely a Scottish.
it sounds.
It's not from the part of Scotland I came
Yeah,
from, but
Herkle
that
Durkle.
definitely sounds
I love
Scottish.
it.
But
Yeah.
how would you
Durkle
say
there.
it? Like, how would a Scottish person say
Yeah.
that?
Say it again.
Herkle Durkle.
Harco Durco.
That's really how you would.
Wow.
Well, you
So,
gotta roll your R's.
But
Really,
that's.
I
I
do.
feel like that is funny that a culture would have like a word for that.
Harco Durco.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, is it like so important in culture to Scottish people that they just need to lay around?
Is
They
it
need
from
a
the
name
West
laying
Coast?
around?
Feels
I
like
was
it's
gonna
from
say.
feels like from Glasgow
Use
or
it
something.
as a participle. Like I'm Herkle Durkling all day.
Yep,
Like,
that's it.
I had a good Herkle Durkle, is what I've
Yeah.
heard.
It's basically you
Yeah.
wake up and you just don't
It's
get out of
too
bed,
long.
or you're just
I know, right? I
super
would never
lazy
use
the
it.
rest of the day.
Like when you make up a word, the syllables must be like 4 syllables.
It's
to
a lot.
Like that's
Is
a
that
lot.
word,
That's a big
like-
commitment.
Is it any of those words used in any other way in your language?
Herkle or a Durkle.
Any of those syllables?
Maybe we shouldn't get into this.
Should we? Okay, let's get off
Negative.
this road.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Harco Durco.
So the
okay.
Scottish word of last season was Gardy Lou.
Yeah, that went
Yeah.
viral.
You guys can go back and look, and you can see
Yeah.
us give
They
a
already
thorough
know.
Maybe the
treatment to
beginning
that
of
one.
every
Yeah.
season we have to come up.
And this Herkle Durkle makes sense for right now because
We're just lounging
don't we all
around.
just want
Yeah.
to just this
Tis the
season to
season.
pass? Yeah.
Do you want a word from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, when something is disgusting.
Oh.
Do you want to guess? No.
Yeah, I do.
Take too long?
Can you give us a
Wonkle
first letter?
donkle.
Wonkle Donkle, got it.
You say that's mingin.
Mingen.
Mingen?
Mingin.
Mingen.
Spell it.
Yeah, I can't.
Ish. Like spell it phonetically.
Ming.
Mingen.
Ing. So
Mingin.
M-I-N-G-I-N-G.
Mingin.
It's mingin.
That's disgusting.
Disgusting. Oh,
Yeah.
And it's not like a
Mingin.
curse word.
Like, it's mingin.
oh man.
We have to use it at least once in our day today
Mingen. Okay, it's easier than Herkle Durkle.
and report back.
I feel like I can't.
Yeah,
still
Harco
can't get-
Durco was disappointing.
I can't get my
it's-
Yeah.
throat and mouth
Disappointing.
word together.
He's
to
like, we
say
could
it.
have done better.
Well, it was a viral, so I thought, hey,
Yep.
let's be with the people. You know.
And it's always people like laying in bed reading a book or like eating off a
Yeah,
tray.
they've made like a tray of like charcuterie in their bed.
And they just aren't getting
If
out.
you find any other weird Scottish words and you want
Yeah.
Yes,
Steven
send it to us.
articulate it, then please submit it in the comments.
You're welcome.
Mingin.
Mingin.
All right, guys, what about if we do our job right now?
Okay.
So that was good. It's good to be back with you guys, actually.
Yeah.
I'm looking
agree.
forward to it.
Ditto.
This is just going to be a little
Natural.
quick 5 week.
Just 5 minutes.
Escape room?
5 week series. And we're going to
John?
take another break. Yep. and then we'll come back in a month or so after. So, yeah, excited to be with you guys. And if you are listening and you want to give us some questions and things to go over, please go to whoisgrace.com/Mark and submit a question. All right, so let's start with the sermon. What, just overall, any overall thoughts before we get into like the points?
It's a tough one.
It sure is.
Tough topic.
Why?
The end.
Thank you for joining us today.
Well, because, I mean, storms that you don't necessarily put yourself in, but you find yourself in,
Yeah.
it's tough.
They catch you off guard.
Like you don't ask for the storm, but there it is. So yeah, those are tough ones to navigate.
And you're dealing with like all these emotions, and at the same time, you're trying to hold your faith. You're trying to make sure that you're remembering it's only temporary. Jesus is with me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn something from it. And there's just like there's extra on top of it when you're walking with Jesus through your storm, and that's good and bad.
And it's difficult when you like Jesus. You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that can
Give me a
spin you
heads up, or
sometimes.
Yeah. Like you.
Could
We
have
went on the
a
boat.
warning, or
We're on the boat right now.
Yeah, like maybe you would have said, don't take the boat.
Yeah, like, hey
Let's
guys,
walk.
I'm gonna sleep, but something might happen. Just be prepared.
he's like, nope.
None of that.
I think it's this story is so, and even the way we chop it up in the English Bible too, like it's at the end of chapter 4.
Yeah.
So
right
it is
before.
the beginning of another subsection of Mark. But if I'm just reading chapter 4, and I just kind of, everybody knows this story, but you kind of gloss over. It's easy to go and be like, oh, Jesus can control the wind and keep going.
Yep.
But then like the way Derek sat in it and treated it, and like even were the disciples thinking, yeah, I don't know, it was like, it hit you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is bigger than just
Yeah.
a little storm getting calm. There's a lot more going on here. It's cool.
This
You
is
guys-
to-
go ahead.
oh,
Sorry,
wait,
no,
oh,
go.
Yeah, okay.
You started.
It's totally extra biblical for sure. But sometimes I wonder, I'm like, was Jesus like just sleeping with like one eye open?
Yeah.
Like he knew it was happening, so he just wanted to see what was
No, that's
happening.
interesting.
It's not.
Or
It's
was he, like, out?
sure it out? But yeah, he's like, I know. Was he like? Was he really sleeping? Or when your kids come in,
Yeah.
in the morning, or when your dogs come in, and you like pretend
can
like
get
you're
'em.
sleeping because you just don't want to deal with it.
Roll
You're like
over.
five more minutes. Like Jesus,
fell
like,
asleep.
oh, okay, here they come.
Yeah.
Here come the kids.
I
See
appreciated
how
Derek
big
bringing
they can
up
fish.
and reminding us of his human form, because never in that story have I ever looked at it from that point of view. Like he was sleeping because he was so exhausted, not because of the time of day, not because of anything else. Like he was so worn out, and he let himself be that human. And you also see, like,
He was an introvert for sure.
you think?
Yeah.
He was in ministry.
He's all, well, and he's all like holy to himself. Like he has everything he needs.
Started
Yeah.
as an extrovert, ended as an introvert.
He's like,
Yeah, the
Hashtag
story.
ministry.
yeah, hashtag ministry, this isn't working.
And they also make videos on social media and stuff about this story where they say, is Jesus telling us something like when things are tough, like take a nap? Do you know what I mean? Like, is he also
That's
setting
funny.
the example, like, take a minute, rest, take a nap. You're okay. It's okay. Like, things are really hard. Let's just take a nap.
He's the Lord of the Sabbath, so
Yeah.
And he also teaches us in many stories where when things are really hard, even right before his crucifixion, what's he do? He goes away by himself and he prays. So, like, is taking a nap and isolating yourself during storms a really good thing to do? Yeah, I would think so.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Because like I do, you guys probably do too. Like I do that for Dax. I'll be like, why
Do you need a
are
nap?
you acting so crazy?
I literally
just
said
go
that to
lay down.
Marlo the
Yeah,
other
like, let's
day.
go lay, you need to lay down.
I'm like, you're crazy right now. Go into your room.
Yeah, go chill.
Breathe. If you need to
Yep,
take a
read
nap,
something.
that's
Need a
okay.
snack.
That's so funny.
Who was the prophet that
Oh, that's a wild
slept
connection.
under a tree and God told him, go take a nap and eat? Who
Elijah?
was that?
Jonah.
Oh, Jonah?
Who's
I mean, he did take a nap.
Guys, a
under
lot of
talking
people
about
have sat under
Elijah?
trees in scripture.
He was.
Go eat something. Oh,
go
yeah,
eat something
Elijah.
and nap. Elijah.
Yeah.
Was
it
it?
was Elijah.
Yeah.
Again,
He
he was in a.
go take a nap.
Yep.
Chill out.
Go chill
Yeah.
out. Go sit. Like, be quiet.
Sarah's going to selectively find every napping aspect
my
of
gosh.
scripture and go to bed and
I'm
be
having
like,
a hard day at work. And I'm like, guys, I'm gonna go take a nap.
Fast forward like
Theology of
2
napping.
years, she's like written a version of scripture. She's like done an interpretation that's just around naps.
Here's what it says
nap.
in Hezekiah 2.
Sleep.
Sleep.
But I did enjoy his point, though, that there was a confidence in the will of God. Like that the Father's will was for his ultimate good.
Yeah.
And so he could rest in that.
Yep.
And so
Yes.
there
be
is
that
truth in
peaceful.
that. There's definitely truth in that.
Yeah.
Do you guys know who Pastor Kelly Kay is?
Never
Doesn't
heard of
sound
him.
familiar.
He's
Nope.
like
Kelsey?
around our age.
Kel-
I can't remember his last name, but I know it's Kelly Kay. And he's very viral on TikTok. He
probably
is
not
a
good then.
pastor. He kind of does like the wide brim hats.
Yeah, it's probably not good. Don't
Yeah.
listen to
Does he
him.
wear like leather? His pants are like too much. What kind of shoes does he wear?
I don't know
Are
exactly
they
what he
baggy or
wears.
tight pants?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Now it'd be hard to
Yeah,
tell.
it doesn't really matter
What I
now
enjoy
with
about
fashion.
him is I have his 40-day devotional called Think, but he has a approach of the gospel and of Jesus in a very practical way, which I appreciate.
Okay.
So he brings things to the table and makes you like really think. He talks about the story in one of his videos. I swore it was in the devotional and I couldn't find it this morning, but I think it's because I'm crossing things. Like I
Yeah.
watch all his videos and then I do his book. But he says at the beginning of the story,
Is this
it's-
like Celsius? Like, remember when you were addicted to Celsius?
Oh, I still am. No, I already had one
Okay,
this
okay.
morning.
All
So no, that hasn't gone away.
By the way, you've seen the things of people on like
Do you remember the days of Carefree
cleaning
Gum?
out their like livers in the hospital because they're drinking too
They're
much of these
also
things?
drinking like 3 a day. I drink
That's true.
1 a day.
Okay.
Well, only one.
No, it's do you. So anyway,
Sorry.
Anyway, so at the beginning of the story, it says, Jesus says, let's go to the other side. The
other side, yeah.
Kelly's point of view is he already told you from the very beginning that you were going to the other side. So your mentality during struggles is God has already told you he's going to be with you and there is another side to it. So
Oh, interesting.
don't try to remember
like you're
that.
going to make it there.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There is another
gonna
side.
make
He's
it.
going to be with you. And
Interesting.
like in the story, right off the bat, he says, let's go to the other side. So
You're
he's
not gonna die.
already told
Yeah,
them,
the destination.
we're going.
yeah. Yeah.
And we need to remember that this
Keep
is
that
temporary.
perspective.
There's another side. And I thought that was really, and that really
That is
stuck
cool.
with me.
Yeah, it's like it's a different way to say that he's like in the boat.
Yeah.
With whatever you're going.
Did you
All
say
right.
his name was Travis Kelsey?
It's,
No?
now it's Pastor Kelly.
us started.
Pastor Kelly.
They're probably
Kay.
friends though.
They're probably, yeah, sounds like it.
I know.
Taylor
just don't-
Swift goes to his church?
Okay. I don't even know what church
No, I don't want to
this is.
minimize your
No.
point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Keep going. Go, 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 go. Pew, pew, pew.
I'm going to go.
Okay.
Knocking the rust off here.
So yeah, any other like overall thoughts? The one thing I guess you're making me think about this a little bit out of order, but like I think sometimes we think when we say like, Jesus can calm the storm or like things are going to be okay, quote unquote, or whatever, trying to be like Christian helpful is what I call it. Sometimes I think we do a little bit of a disservice to ourselves and other people because we lead with them thinking like the circumstance is going to be calmed, like the thing is going to go away, that thing you're going through is going to be over, but that's not actually
True.
always true. It's sometimes true. A lot of times it can be true, but really sometimes the calming could be an internal calming. It's like God obviously drawing you closer to him, but also he might decide the best way to show his power is to not fix that thing, heal that thing, move that thing, whatever.
And he's showing you that he's going to take that circumstance and help you to adapt to a new way of life.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
a new realization
yep,
of who he
yes.
is, or that someone else needs that. It's so complicated because everything we do obviously is so temporal
Yep.
Well,
that it's easy to jump to that.
I mean, Romans 8:28, all things work
2008.
together. 2008, yeah.
208.
All things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. Like, I think
That's a good- yeah.
That is such a, the intent is always
Sure.
well-meaning, but like, oh, it's okay. All things work together for good. Okay, that good is that like eternal good.
Right.
And it is going to all work together for that, but like, that doesn't mean this doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
and some of the most powerful moments of pastoral care I've been able to provide is when I just say, this sucks.
Yeah.
And someone's like, thank you for saying it.
Right.
Like, it's okay for the storm
It
to suck.
is.
It's okay to
Yeah.
be freaked out. Jesus doesn't promise to take away the storms and the hard things, but he promises to walk with us through it.
Yeah. I appreciated that too, where Derek kind of put in his own words or his own tone that they were like, do you even care that we're dying? Do you even care? And that's fine.
Yep.
You don't live there. If you have
But that's a real emotion in storms,
totally.
in the storms of life. Like, okay, I love you. You died for me. Like, we have this relate. Do you even care? Like,
Yeah,
you could control
hello?
this. You could take this away. Come
Right.
on. Why are you not doing
And you
it?
see that in that reflected in the Psalms
Oh, yeah.
too. Like, it's not spiritual or, I mean, God already knows what you're thinking. Like, just lay it all out. It's okay to feel the feelings
Be bold
in
about
those
it.
storms.
Yeah.
Do you think? Again, I'm being extra biblical today.
Listen,
Wow,
guys,
feeling
we'll-
spicy, I guess.
Yeah, do it. We'll get canceled before we start.
In verse, I'm surprised we're not canceled already, but
Our coworkers would have to actually listen to this to catch anything.
that's right. That's right. So in verse 40, it says, "And he, being Jesus, said to them, 'Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?'" And I think in hypotheticals, right? Imagine if they had the faith to not be afraid. Do you think the storm would have do you think that Jesus would have settled the storm?
Anyway.
Or would they sail to the other side
Like you said, he was going
through
to.
the storm?
Right.
There's just one of those moments where
Yeah, that's-
it was actually better to calm the storm because it was going to increase the faith of the person.
Because he could have just let them keep going.
Because there's a truth that I don't know if this is a truth. I'm just thinking, like, God gives you what you need in that moment, and you have to recognize Him also as a gracious God. I mean, He's not going to push you over the edge, but sometimes, I'm
It's hard. It's hard.
fig-
Like a theology of like trials and suffering is like intense.
because He does give you more than you can handle.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
But
Yeah,
He's
that's a
there
false-
every step of the way.
That's
Agreed.
a lie
like a-
we debunked
Yeah,
last
God will
year.
never
I
give you
think.
more than
Oh,
you
yeah,
It's a
can
way to
handle.
make us
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah.
But whatever purpose God has, He will surely
He's
see
there.
it through. It will happen.
Yeah.
And that could mean calm the storms, and that's because that's the purpose. And there's miracles and healing. Great. But it could also very well be, nah, you're going to ride this thing out, and it's not going to turn out well from an earthly perspective, but the faith comes from trusting that God's purposes will actually come through and happen to
And what
the
a,
grace good.
also, what a great moment between you and Jesus, too, whether you see it during the storm or afterwards and you look back and then you see like everything He did do and that He is doing. Like, for you to be in a trial and be in a circumstance and keep your focus on Him as best as you can. And when you get on the other side, you look back and you're like, dang,
Yeah.
like, you had me the whole, like, we were fine. But to be able to see that and have that moment together is huge
Yeah.
for your relationship.
I mean, there is that perspective where God is just saying, trust that I've got this. Trust that I've got this. I know. So I think about Marlo. Marlo did basketball this fall. Really the first time he did basketball.
How'd he
And
do?
as he did all right. He did all
is he?
right. He's 7.
So it's 7, you know.
Yeah. But he stepped onto a team, and a lot of the players were much better than him, too.
They'd been doing it.
And they had been playing together for a long time. So they all came really from the same community, neighborhood. And so he was really the only sort of outsider. And for the first 3 weeks, he's like, I don't want to go. Don't want to go. Don't want to go. And, you try and do this. You made a commitment. Let's follow it through. And you don't want to be overly hard on that. But we thought that this one was important. And he now loves it. But it was like in our mind, we knew
We're going to get you through.
Like,
We're here.
once you get integrated
You can
socially
see.
into the community, even though you might not be the best player on the team, and he's not the best player on the team, eventually, like you could see and it's almost like that. Marlo, just trust us.
Yeah.
Just trust us. And it's a small example. It's
No,
not.
it's
It's
not.
not a
It's
storm
not.
in life.
It's really,
but-
but it's a fatherly example.
Yes,
Right, it's
exactly.
good.
Yep.
And God is our Father.
Correct.
And so I think it's actually an incredibly powerful
great.
analogy that when we're walking through hard things and we don't see how God's using it, God as our Father is saying, there's a reason for this, there's a good on the other side, whatever, whenever, however that looks like. I think it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
No, I think that was great.
Something that hit me this time. I don't know. I was just thinking about the portion of the sermon where Derek was talking about Jesus being in the boat with you, and how, for me, I think it's just stuff I've been going through lately. Like sometimes or a lot of times, I get in this thing where it's like, I know in my head, like I can cry out to Him, I can be real with Him, all the things, but there's a bigger part of me that has a filter where I think He's giving this to me to see how well I can handle it. So I need to handle this really well for myself, for everyone around me, and to Him.
Him. Oh my God. Yes.
And I spend a lot of time in that space. And it's a lot of energy that I don't know that he's asking me to spend.
You are not alone in that,
you
by
know
the
what I
way.
mean? Yeah.
Woo-wee, that is real.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us relate to that.
I don't think I've been able to put words to it before.
Is it because we live in a challenge-based society? Like, it has to be a challenge. There has to be...
We don't want God to think we're lazy with what he's giving us.
And there's literally a part of my personality, I'm an Enneagram 5, where, like, I want to be seen as, like, generally competent.
Oh.
So as if... God's like, okay. Good luck chasing that down. But that's part of it too. I think I'm also a little bit wired that way, even in addition to like societal stuff. But yeah, I think it does have to, especially Americans, like achieve.
There's an expected performance of me that God has.
Yeah.
That I need to accomplish, or
Yeah.
some
And once
wicked
I get
need to-
there, we can have a conversation about how it went.
Right.
It's like a debrief conversation.
Like God saying that to you. Once you get there, Danielle,
Yeah, then come see me.
Yeah, once you've got it handled,
we'll stick the
we'll
debrief
have
on the
a
calendar.
conversation about how well it went. Isn't that sick?
Or it's from another perspective.
Yeah, go
I've
ahead.
brought this up before, where when I'm in a situation, I'll be like, I don't want to bother him with it. He's got other things going on.
Yeah.
He's like really busy, saving humanity and all that stuff. So I don't want to like bother him with like my silly,
Your hangnail or something.
right?
Yeah.
To me, it's like, and that is not at all. That's the whole point, right?
Right.
Like anything and everything go to him about. And I have to be like, Sarah, stop it. And I have to walk myself out of it.
Just keep rowing. Just keep bailing the water out. Like, don't wake him up. It's just a
Don't
small
wake
thing.
him up.
I can
He's
do
like-
this. We can get to the other side.
Right.
And he's right there.
And he's actually, God
I mean,
is.
it's funny if you actually think about the story that
It's
way.
wild.
They're just like, bail. Like,
Because then God is a good father who wants to give us good gifts and who wants to come
And where did he
alongside
get
us.
them?
And in our weakness, He is strong.
And then what happened? As soon as they went to him, we're like, please, like, what'd he do? He took
Boom.
care of it.
He took care of it, but he did challenge
he
them.
did challenge
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
In
Like, I
Mark's,
shouldn't have to take care of this.
right,
Like, we
Mark's
should
gospel
We should be
doesn't,
already going through it together. Yeah.
I was trying to look back.
Good point.
It doesn't tell us what came just before that, but I believe in the other gospels, this was just after Jesus fed the 5,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Or the 25,000 if you include women and children.
Just
So
showed
it's
him all the bread
God
and
forbid.
fish, yeah.
so it's
They had just seen a demonstration.
right. So it's and so I wonder sometimes because I think we can interpret tone, right?
Yeah.
Either correctly or incorrectly when we read scripture. And so, like, why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? I just don't see Jesus lumping on shame.
I agree with that.
And so
It's a teaching moment.
it is a teaching moment. And sometimes we have to navigate through shame, and sometimes it's self-inflicted shame
Yes.
in order to get to freedom.
Sure.
But, it's almost like that father's heart, again, if we go back to it, like, it's almost like, Marlo, just you can trust me because I know, like, the goal is not to hurt you here.
Right. Oh my gosh, all the time. Yeah.
But the goal is for your development. It's for the growth of your faith.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
good.
like, he does confront it. Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? But it's almost like,
Hello.
yeah, he's
somebody
really
just brought me
Fish
their,
and bread.
Just
Yeah.
do.
here's some Lunchables, and I just turned it into a feast.
And also, too, there was probably a whole lot of other conversations that they were having that were
no
never
doubt.
written.
Oh, of course.
So to him, he's like, really? Like all this talking and all these things that we've been going over. But I appreciate these stories very much because it reminds me, even the humans that were literally walking with him every day, saw him in the physical,
Yeah.
got to touch him, laugh with him, like they still struggled. Like
Yeah.
we cannot be perfect. This is why it's so important to have Jesus.
So
Even
give
the
yourself
people-
some grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally had him
Literally.
in the boat, and they were like, "What are we doing?"
They can look at him, like touch him, you know?
Imagine getting to heaven and be like, "Hey guys, so how was that in the boat?" And they're like, "Man, everyone's asking me about yes, we know.
It
We
It was a
Wow.
really bad storm. Okay?
Yeah, like,
It was a really bad storm.
Remember
there.
when like there were no fish, and you were like, "Oh, there's not enough to feed people." Embarrassing.
Wow.
It does bring up that good point though. Like how much are we leaning on the past faithfulness of God
Oh yeah.
to strengthen us for that moment, to strengthen us for that season? And I don't want that to sound Sunday school-esh
Yeah.
and just sort of skip over that. But there is a real sense in which that's true. Like why did the Jewish people celebrate the Passover every single year? Because
Remember.
the goal is to remember. The goal is to, why do we set up stones, before we cross the Jordan River? The goal is to remember. The goal is to remember. And, I think that's the heart of Jesus' question here.
Yeah, I agree.
Why are you so afraid? You don't have to be afraid. Like you said earlier, Sarah, I told you we were going to go to the other side. Like, why are you so afraid?
I already told
I've been faithful. I will continue to be faithful. Rest in that faithfulness.
The remembering thing is huge. Like if you actually, we couldn't in this moment, but like clock all those moments and all those feasts and
altars
and like,
that. Yep.
It's a reflection of like it's a theme. It's like he knows.
Yep.
So
We're not great at remembering these things.
How do we remember then when we're
yeah.
walking through storms? Like what are ways? I
think there's got to be practices in our lives that we set up, or disciplines in our life that when we go through a storm, whether we even, I don't know how you set up a notification for a storm that happens in your life, but it's almost like
Should have a Monday.com board for it. Trials started. Go. We could. We totally could.
Can't do that next week. I got a storm coming.
But there's
really busy.
But it's just a reality, like where you have to create some white space for yourself. So in the storm, can you get to a place where you're disciplined enough to go, okay, I'm in a storm. Here's what I actually need to do. I need to sit in the faithfulness, the past faithfulness of God. I need to take 10 minutes. Maybe my devotional is not going to be
it looks different. Yeah.
the YouVersion plan that I usually go to or whatever. But maybe I'm just going to sit for 15 minutes or a half hour
with God
and recount the moments where he's been faithful.
That's a good practical step.
So
that's good.
I'll go ahead and throw a situation of mine lately. So I'm in a season of dealing with guilt, which is, by the way, very annoying. And I recognized I was feeling guilty about A, B, and C. This was going on, that was going on. I started feeling like I didn't deserve this, I didn't deserve that. And what did I do? I tried to take it on myself. Okay. And one day, like I was probably 3-4 days in, I started realizing something was going on. I'm like, you're Sarah, you have to, like, you haven't even talked to Jesus at all once about this yet. You've been dealing with this for like 3 days and you've been trying to deal with it on your own. So I pulled up, I sat down on the couch first and I was like, all right, I'm here. I'm dealing with a lot of guilt. I'm not come to you. I really need to, we need to figure this out because I'm going crazy. So I was like, what do you want me to do? And it became very clear that he wanted me to do a devotional. So I pulled up the Bible and the app, the YouVersion, and I was like, okay. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but when I sit with him to do a devotional, I'm like, which one do you want me to do? Because I get overwhelmed because there's so many if you're on a specific topic. Yeah. And he's always been really good with me about making it very clear. Like I'll scroll through and I'm like, oh, okay. And it's always the right one. I learned so much from it. So I did find one. So that has worked for me as well, like sitting down and obviously being in his word, but finding like a really good devotional. Like no matter where I'm at in another devotional, I will stop. If there's one topic in my life that I'm really having a hard time with, I will start a devotional on that. And I just talked it through the day.
I think for those people that are achievement oriented and you want to like finish a plan or
put a bookmark.
That's between both of you. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Just to like recenter on like what is God saying to me right now and what am I going to do about it?
I think it's
come far.
God's Spirit can speak to us when we intentionally sit in His presence.
Yes.
Obviously, saturating in God's Word helps us to remember in those times. I think God also works through His church and through other people. Yes. And so sometimes when you're in a storm, personally, when I've been in really tough seasons or going through guilt-ridden moments or whatever it is, sometimes I can't remember. I can't preach the gospel to myself. And I need someone else to do it for me.
Don't isolate.
To point back to God's faithfulness in my life, in others, that He will. And I need the Spirit needs to speak truth to me through someone else. And so that's where the isolation and storms coming. I'm just going to isolate. That's not how it's supposed to be. Let someone else speak the words of God to you.
And this might sound strange too, but even during this guilt season I'm in with him right now, I'm actually getting excited because I know that he's going to teach me so much and we're going to have all these moments together. And it kind of changes your mentality on a situation like this really stinks, but also at the same time, he is going to bring so much glory into it and I get to be a part of it and it's going to be so exciting. So and I know I know everyone's different. Like everyone.
That's a good perspective.
everyone approaches things differently.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I have learned and my mom's death was the kickstart for this.
Yeah.
Like,
That was a big hinge point for
what
you.
I got to see God do for me,
Yeah.
and how much I clung to Him. I just and I try to remember these scenarios in my head. Like, remember the last time you had a really crazy thing and you went to Jesus? How wonderful it ended up coming on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Like, I try to remember those too.
That's exactly it. That's
Just
literally it.
remember
That's literally
them, write
it.
them down, whatever you got to do, and go back.
We might be able to find, I know Pastor Derek has a tool that he uses in one of his calling classes. It's like a map where
Oh,
you
yeah.
like put, I can't remember the name of it, but you mark those things, like literally those defining moments that you can like look back on. Yeah, that's great.
Or even just like thinking about trying to vision a way that He's like with you, whether you look at a chair, or whether you look at your empty couch, whatever. But do you know a new, I'm not off subject, but I am, and I just want to say this really quick.
Let's go, Sarah. Some of
This new vision that I have in my head now of like hanging out with Jesus.
Oh, yes, the chair.
So I can't see Him, okay?
Yeah.
We're separated, but I know He's there. It's almost like He's on one side of like a foggy glass, and I'm on the other side of the foggy glass, and you can see Him, and you know He's there, but you can't see His physical traits.
Isn't that a C.S. Lewis book?
Isn't this also like Love is Blind? We're like,
What?
Wow.
no, like
Those are pretty close.
That was
No,
a great
each other.
connection,
for
Danielle
Love
and
is
Sarah.
Blind, you know, they
Wood.
have the wall, and they know they're on each side of it. Do you guys watch the show?
Through a something dimly.
It's
through
funny.
a-
You thought C.S. Lewis. She thought Love is Blind, and I went to 1 Corinthians 13.
and you were the most right.
So we just, who's holier? You can vote.
Let's vote it up.
But that's the thing I fixate on. Like, you're right there. You're on one side. You're on the other. I can see your outline, but I can't see you.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Good for you.
Thanks.
Wow.
Love is blind.
Well, okay. What? Okay. I have another kind of a follow-up question to your question about going through trials. So a lot of us have people in our lives who aren't believers, who aren't Christians. So what are some like helpful and unhelpful things you've seen in that arena? Right? Because I'm not going to expound on it, but
To minister to them?
yeah,
Or
to
just
minister
kinda-
to them, like, yeah, practical tips or
if someone's going through a storm, the most helpful, it's literally like my first, this sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said it earlier, but like that's literally just acknowledging that whatever they're going through is difficult and hard, and like
And it's
acknowledging
okay
the
not to
emotion.
like it.
And it's
Yeah.
okay. Like literally,
Yeah.
that honestly probably gets me the most relational equity. That's just acknowledging this sucks, guys. And someone's, you're right, it does suck. That's regardless of Christian, not Christian, whatever. That's kind of my.
It's freeing for another human being when they're going through something to have someone approach them and be like, this is awful.
And the corollary to that is not saying it's going to be all right. It's all going to work out. Like, especially if they're not a Christian and they don't have that hope view at the end. Like, it'll all work out. Ain't nobody want to hear that.
No. I saw this Simon Sinek post. It was like a video clip from his podcast, and he was talking about there's like all this like neuroscience and stuff about when somebody's going through something, they need the presence of a trusted person for 8 minutes. And not a fixer, not a whatever. Just like, I'm here with you.
Yep.
And obviously you're not timing 8 minutes, but like, that's as small as it is. Like, go to your neighbor's house mom just died or whatever. This sucks.
Like,
It's the ministry of
Just
presence.
sit there. It's presence, right? Exactly.
let them dump.
That's, I think so many times the trouble that I see people get into, especially Christians, is like, you're trying to like pre-spiritualize or over-spiritualize or do something for someone who, God will give you words, obviously, but like, you don't need to feel the pressure of that.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Well, that's so we just finished up our Future Church series
Yeah.
and talking about our dream disciple and this idea of savvy follower, someone who I know God's word and what to do about it or whatever our little tag
Right time,
is. But
right way, yeah.
The idea of being savvy and knowing this is probably not a moment to like preach the gospel.
Sure.
And that sounds weird.
Nope.
But it's probably not this might not be the moment to bring up Jesus. This just might be the moment to display Jesus in your lack of words and, presence.
It's possible to trust in God's faithfulness for that person,
Yes.
but also cry with that person too.
Yep.
Yes, 100%.
And Jesus is a perfect example when Lazarus died,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's
Lazarus,
right.
he knew he was about to raise him from the dead. He'd been dead for
Still
3
cried.
days, but he wept with his friends.
Yeah.
And so he
Yeah.
trusted in the power and the faithfulness of God.
Mm-hmm.
But was able to be emotionally present with it. And I've always just tried to encourage people. Words are not important. I mean, they are in those moments. But as we've been saying, your presence is like, remember, you guys like each other. You know what I'm saying? You've been in relationship with each other. There's a reason that you're friends. There's a reason that you guys share a deep love with each other. That's what you lean on in that moment. Yep. They're not asking for you to become a magic genie in that moment. Right. Although taking things away would be great, sure, if we had the ability to do that. But what they want is just you in that moment. I think about the moments in pastoral ministry in the past when I was a lead pastor. I would come home. I didn't need Nicole to say anything.
Yeah.
I just needed her to sit on the couch with me.
Yeah, that's good.
I knew that she wasn't going to solve the issue.
Right.
I knew that I was still going to have to go deal with the difficult person or the hard situation or the death or whatever.
Yeah. But
I came back to my house. I came back to my home. And what I wanted was Nicole in that moment. Because she was a place of familiarity. Yeah. And in this storm, it's hard to see everything that was familiar. Right. And so a lot of times you're an anchor for people in that moment. And I think that I'm not surprised by that 8 minutes. I didn't know about it, but not surprised by that at all. 8 minutes in the presence of someone that you love and they love you. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's priceless.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Or even something as simple as, is this a listening moment or do you want me to help you fix it moment? Ask them.
Oh, yeah, you can ask them.
Because you have the relational equity to do that.
Exactly. Yes, where are you at?
We're not talking about people we're coming in contact with on the street.
Right.
This is a
and also,
relationship.
too, if you have these very open conversations and they feel like they're heard and validated and they feel it's a very safe place, that could very much open up conversations down the road about Christ. They're much more open to have a conversation with you or to hear it than you rushing in and just shoving spiritual stuff down their throat when they're not in that headspace.
Because if that's not the basis of your relationship, so say you have a relationship with someone who doesn't know Jesus, you didn't shove Jesus down their throat to begin with, so why do it in that moment?
Right.
Why they're looking for you because they know who you are.
Yes.
And they may actually subconsciously or even consciously admire the faith that you have, and that's actually the anchor.
Yep.
Right.
So you and I were talking about this the other day. Like when a storm comes, sometimes we get tripped up by the label.
Totally.
Right? And we feel like we need to now act like some sort of weird person because they now have
You're
a
allowed to be
label
human.
on them. And what do we got to do? Like, what? Like, let's not.
Yeah, you're still the same person. You still have the same relationship.
100%. And you're actually, I don't want to say you're the perfect person for that situation, but you may be the closest to the perfect person for that situation that person needs. Yeah. Jesus providentially put you in. Yep. We're gonna go to the other side, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're gonna be on the boat with this person.
Yeah.
Now, if you do want a non-threatening, low-barrier way to I think bring Jesus in, I think it's something as simple as, hey, I'm gonna pray for you.
Yep.
Yep.
Or even more powerfully is, can I pray for you now? And people who, if you're in a moment of a big storm and even if they don't believe in what you're doing, the fact that you care enough to want to do something they think you think helps, so that's not a non-threat. It's not overburdening, but it's, I'll pray for you.
Love.
Can I pray for you?
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, in my own experience, you have had more than me, but I don't think, I've never had anybody go, no, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would even someone who's completely just nothing? They're like, well, let's just put quote unquote good vibes into the atmosphere. Yeah. So let's do it that way.
Yep.
Fine.
So I have had some moments where people have responded in anger.
Oh, sure.
So I'm not necessarily at this point. I'm not talking about a friend who doesn't know Jesus. I'm talking about stepping into a pastoral situation.
Yeah,
so
different. Yeah.
this might not be relatable, but I've stepped into pastoral situations where I go to pray and they refuse.
Okay.
Because they're mad.
Oh, and they're just not
mad at God, mad at you, mad at the whole situation.
Period.
Yeah,
yes.
just mad.
Here's a man of faith, a representative of God. I'm mad at it all.
Yeah.
I've found sometimes a good tool is to, I would say, proactively, not reactively. So not, let's pray. And they go, no, I'm not praying. But to say to them when the moment feels right, if you were to say anything to God right now, what would you say?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Yes.
Ooh.
And it doesn't...
Okay.
They don't even need to answer it in that moment. You give them permission not to answer it, but just say, if you would say anything, write it down.
That's good.
And just, again, I think a lot of times we need to feel like we're doing God's job, right?
Yes.
But God's But God's God.
got
Let
it.
God do. We don't need to defend him.
Right.
Right?
It's not the time.
And that's a key part. If they do decide to, and if there's anger, don't defend.
And that's, I just feel like there's
that is-
power in giving the person permission to bring that emotion to God.
yes,
Yes.
100%.
Rather than trying to, they're angry. Of
Yeah,
course
that's
they're
great.
angry.
Yeah, of course.
Their
Validated.
husband just died. Of course they're
Yeah.
angry. Like, why wouldn't they be angry?
Right.
They're confused at God. Like, give them the permission to write. And they don't necessarily know that that's a prayer per se
Right.
that they're bringing to God, but
Yeah.
it's at least processing the emotion as if they were to talk to God.
Yeah.
That's good.
And sometimes they'll
That's
come back
beautiful.
to that.
And you also have that then in your tool belt for them when you're praying later.
100%.
Like
Yeah.
that's obviously what they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey,
I-
even if you don't tell me now, just text me later.
Text me later. Yeah.
And I really try before I go into these conversations to remember to stop and pray and be like, okay, I'm about to go into this conversation. Please be with me. Please give me the words that you want me to say. Like, I've got to remember that even though we may not speak of you, I still want you in the room, and I know you're in the room. And however that is going to look, make me aware of you and like aware of what you want me to say or how I'm supposed to respond. Because that is power in itself, even though
Yeah.
his name never gets spoken, but
Yeah.
to make sure that you're focused on him during that moment, he will do so much with that.
I think the danger is that we came from this sort of evangelical movement.
Right.
Of the 90s, of the 80s, of, the we've called it before the assimilation model, the megachurch movement. And we hear about all these
Yeah.
stories.
Yelling.
Derek said it a few weeks ago
Chaos.
about sitting on a plane with somebody. And you always hear about the pastor telling a story of sitting on the plane with somebody and then they led that person to
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah.
And you're like, well, every time literally when I sit down on the plane, I'm like,
Please don't touch
I'm
me.
like,
I'm like,
Sleep.
God, I really hope this is not a moment right now.
yeah.
I really just want to
If
relax.
I had like blinds, I could literally like turn down. I would.
But I think we've
Hilarious.
come from this, like we were saying
Yes.
earlier, we've come from this evangelical expectation model where we're saying it kind of has to look like this. And we're not actually leaving any room for God to do the work that God actually wants to do.
Right.
So
do
let
it on
God
his
be
time.
God.
Yes.
Let God be God. And that's not a removing of your responsibility,
Right. Still
but
pray.
it's being
Still be present.
Yeah.
it's being in tune with what the Spirit's doing.
It's the savvy.
Savvy.
Yep.
follower.
But be
Savvy.
excited that he wants you to be a part of it, and he'll use you as he chooses.
We're almost out of time, but I want to say, I know it's went fast. Is that clock right? Okay. So Derek had a section in his sermon. Just curious about your thoughts on what is faith. Do you remember that? Thoughts. In particular, he was saying like you can't manifest it, stockpile it. The issue is not the size or the amount of it.
You're like, oh, we're just out of time. What's faith?
We're like, wow,
Right?
I rushed.
Oh,
A verse of Revelation I'd like to talk about.
Faith.
Well, no, I want to talk about it though, because I think it kind of is reflective of what we've already talked about. But
Faith to me is always remembering that Jesus has it under control. And I need to remember that.
okay,
That's that's my wording for faith is
Yeah.
remembering that he has it.
okay, yeah. So yeah, no, so it's not. It's
My
not,
mind wants to say other words and I don't know them.
No, that's fine.
I'm not there yet.
I thought it was really powerful for him to say it's not like weightlifting, where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like stockpile this stuff in my spirit. It's like not the amount, it's the object, which is kind of what you're saying. So like the object of your faith is Jesus.
That he's fully in control. Like remembering that it's all about him and not myself. Like faith is believing
Believing what he says
yes
is true.
is true.
Or that he's right about what he says.
And he's going to take it. Yes.
I think it's trusting God
Yes.
to
Trust me,
continue
thank
to
you.
be who he's always been.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. That's good.
Based on what he's done, that he'll continue to be that way.
Yes.
Just trusting him. And it's also important that I think faith, it's not something, you can't make more of it, neither can you get any of it. Like
Yeah.
God also provides faith.
Yeah.
Even if it looks imperfectly from the outside,
Yeah.
he provides that faith.
Yeah. I mean, the things we can do are the things that we've already talked about. Like we're remembering, we're training ourselves just in our sanctification process. We're obviously learning more about who God is, who we are, all those things. That's all happening. That it doesn't just happen just by sitting still,
Yeah.
but like, anyway. And also, we've already talked about this, but I think also another powerful thing to remember from this sermon is that the prize for going through a trial is not
Is
that
not the
everything's-
relief.
Yeah, it's not that everything's fixed.
Yep.
The prize is Jesus.
That's really
Yes.
And for me, that's the most memorable thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I messaged this to you guys
Yeah, go
before
ahead.
the podcast, but this story just always gets me. Maybe it's a way to wrap
Yeah,
up.
it'd be great.
Oh shoot, now I can't find it. Give me 1 second.
That's
Here
okay.
it is. And it's the exchange of fear that takes place right at the end of the passage when Jesus asks, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And right before that, Jesus had just said, "Peace, be still," to the
Yeah.
waves, and the waves. So they went from being terribly afraid of this storm. And then it says, after Jesus says, "Why are you so afraid?" In verse 41, it says, "And they were filled with great fear." Again, and they said to one another, "Who is this? Even the wind and the sea obey him." And so there's this idea, right, that we can have fear in, how did I put it? Fear focused on our troubles turns into hopelessness.
Yeah.
But fear focused on our Savior becomes hope-filled
Becomes
faith.
Yes.
Because that's what God gives us on the back end
Yeah, and
of it.
he's bigger than the thing you were afraid of.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, Jesus is the prize. And so even in the lack of faith, they had faith as small as a mustard seed to go to the one in that moment who they knew could actually calm the storm.
Yeah.
So
I had a moment the other day where I was startled about something that scared me, like in my house or whatever. Annoyed. I don't remember what it was. Something fell or something. And I got scared and I was alone. And very clearly he was like, "I'm with you. You don't have to be so afraid." And then I went off on a tangent. And I was like, and I just remembered, because I had been, there was other things going on in my head at the time. And I went off and I was like, "Yeah, you're Satan." And I went crazy. And I was like really, really mad. But he reminded me very clearly, I am here. Like, it's okay. Like, you have the power within you. I'm here to not be afraid of your situation. Yeah. So even just taking a hold of it and yelling out loud or whatever you have to do, to yell at that fear and remind yourself that Jesus is with you, that does a lot too.
I'm so
Just
glad.
saying it out loud.
I'm so glad you're on our podcast.
So, and the fear thing reminds me, I think I wrote this down in our chat
I'm glad
too.
you're here too.
It reminds me of, I guess C.S. Lewis is sponsoring this episode, but in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where Lucy describes the lion, that reminds me of that. Just he's so close, so tender, so loving,
Yes.
but so scary because he's
Fierce.
so powerful over all these things.
Yeah.
And that fear, like you're saying, just can be a root of hope.
yeah, this controlled power.
Yeah.
Because he loves
Yeah.
he is very capable.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Very
and
trustworthy.
that's my God.
Yeah.
That's my God.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think that answers our discipleship question, but you guys can think about that too. So we're taught, this one was the Son of God, Son of Man. What is it? What? Oh, shoot, I lost it. Son of God, Son of Man. Oh, how does this picture of Jesus
Compel me
to live differently? Thank you. So yeah, we're kind of answering that for ourselves, but I think that's a good thing to meditate on from this passage. So, okay, I think we need to stop.
Such a bummer.
I know, right? Don't worry. We can do
2 hour
it again.
podcast.
Yeah, 2 hours. Sorry for the long one. Okay, but how does this picture of Jesus compel me to live differently? Reminder to go to whoisgrace.com/Mark for resources. And you can also submit a question like we talked
Please.
about, or let us know just how you're feeling about the podcast. Maybe not today's episode, but yeah. So next week we'll be back. Thanks for joining us. See ya.